We're talking playoff hoops along with playoff duels on the mats. And don't think we forgot about spring sports as well. Welcome back inside the amazing Mossart Center studio for the latest edition of the 3304 Sports Tip-Off Show. He's the talented Pearce Mcknight, I'm Miles Jordan, and it's officially March. Conference tournament time is here.
This is my favorite time of year. It's my birthday in a week, and we got playoff basketball. I love it. And hot take right here. I think it's better than Christmas time. March is my favorite time of month, and maybe the entire time of the year.
Hey, your birthday is your Christmas for you.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about some Virginia Tech hoops. Virginia Tech is currently the 10th seed in the ACC Tournament. After suffering a loss to UNC this past Tuesday, let's roll the film real quick. Start off early here in the first quarter as RJ Davis receives the ball on the wing and looks to score, but it hits the big-time triple to start the game. Melijah Poti on the other side, looking at the high post, finds Jaden Young on the high key, and it is good, a big triple from him.
He's been lights out as of recently, Pearce.
Late in the first quarter, RJ Davis coughs up the ball to Ian Jackson. Ian Jackson on Ben Hammond, sidestep three, up and good.
Ooh, when you're a five-star recruit, you can take shots like that. You can wear shoes like that. Those things are bright.
Reckensteiner at the top of the key with the Hokies down 32 with 12 minutes to go. Looks to find Wessler, coughs it up to Trimble. A fast break for UNC. A big-time dunk for Trimble as they push the lead to 34. And that will be all she wrote for that game. It was 91-59 UNCL on top. The Hokies have to win against Clemson tomorrow to have any chance of a first-round bye. What has to happen for the Hokies to pull off an upset at Clemson?
Well, I talked to Jaden Young after the UNC game on Tuesday night and asked him about what the game plan was for preparing for Clemson. He said they're not going to do anything much different. They know their game plan. They're trusting what they need to do. They need to shoot the ball. They need to convert on free throws. They shot 57% from the charity stripe last game against Clemson. That's not going to work. They left 9 points on the field. So if they're able to convert where they need to, they might have a chance to take down the number 11 team in the country. Well, we've seen the show once before in Blacksburg earlier this year. Ian Shefflin facilitates from the top of the key. He's moving left to right. He finds Chauncey Wiggins in the corner, hesitates, pulls up for three, and it's good.
Shefflin can do it all for the Clemson Tigers.
Jaden Zachary driving to the paint, puts up a layup, won't go, but grabs his own rebound, puts it back up for the tough finish for two.
Never back down, never give up.
Later in that game, Jaden Young, elevator screen, top of the key, rises, three, fires, it's good, and it's a 2-point game. But now we've got Ben Burnham on the steal. He gets it. Jaden Shute driving, kicks it back out to Burnham, top of the key for the three. And it's good. That'll do it for the final score back in Blacksburg in January. Clemson takes it 72-57.
One thing I noticed is almost every time the Tigers scored a big bucket, they looked at the Hokies bench or the Hokie faithful. So they would definitely feed off the crowd tomorrow night.
Yeah, and they have been feeding off the crowd all season long. They're 14-2 on their home court this year. I mean, it's almost impossible for them to lose at home. So if the Hokies, if they need to storm into Clemson and figure out how to get a win, they're going to figure out a way to get past Clemson's crowd. They're always on their back. Clemson was able to do it. They were talking to the people in the crowd. They were talking to the Hokies bench. They had a little chip on their shoulder. The Hokies are going to need to kind of get the same thing on theirs if they want to get a win over the number 11 team in the country this Saturday.
Let's dive deep in what comes after tomorrow night. Miami, Boston College, NC State have all been eliminated. So tomorrow's matchups are all about seeding with the remaining 15 teams.
Yeah, so you talk about it. The bracket itself is set with the teams, but the seeding isn't. So right now we've got UNC and SMU. They're both fighting for that number 4 seed, the last double bye. UNC, I mean, we just talked about it. They blew out the Hokies here past Tuesday. They had a great showing. They're really looking like they're the number 4 team in the conference right now. I think that they deserve that number 4 seed. But now for the last single bye seed, the Hokies and UVA are fighting for the number 9 seed in the bracket. Right now they're neck and neck. They both have 8 conference wins. They're both looking to get their 9th on Saturday. If the Hokies are able to knock off Clemson, that's a decisive win. I really think that that would propel them to get that single bye to secure that 9 seed. But if the Hokies drop it and UVA wins, that's an automatic. UVA will take it, and the Hokies are going to have to play on the first day of the tournament, which is no fun for anyone.
This is why every game matters in conference play during the regular season. Now let's pivot to a man who has the world of basketball in a chokehold. And for more on the game of Capture the Flag, here's our very own Robert Bateman.
The other day, I was sitting on the couch watching my favorite guilty pleasure show, The Bachelor, and I just kept thinking to myself how crazy of an idea the show really is. I mean, think about it for a second. You have all of these candidates fighting to be the number 1 pick, which feels kind of familiar for some reason. And that's when it hit me. Cooper Flagg is the modern-day Bachelor. It's no secret Flagg has been the favorite for the number 1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft, and for good reason. The main event leads Duke in every statistical category this season. And if that's not crazy enough, I'd like to remind you that the Blue Devils are the number 2 team in the nation, and they have a roster that currently has 7 different players projected to be drafted in 2025. And the madness of Flagg doesn't end there. Let me remind you, Cooper Flagg is a freshman, but what you might not know, he reclassified up last year to enter college early, so technically, he should still be a senior in high school. What blows my mind, Cooper Flagg was 17 years old for half of the regular season, and he still has found himself as a lock for the ACC Player of the Year, and he's also competing with Auburn's Janai Broome for National Player of the Year. Flagg has hinted at staying with Duke for one more season, which has had multiple teams terrified that they might miss out on their chance for a player who seems to be a bona fide superstar. Only time will tell what the main event decides, but I'm sure every team in the running for the ACC's newest bachelor will shoot their shot. And with that, I think there's only one question left on everyone's mind. Cooper Flagg, will you accept this rose?
Thanks, Rob. And if he won't take the rose, I for sure will. Let's shift back to the Atlantic Coast, where we plan to crown the queens of the ACC this weekend. Now, Miles, there's 4 teams that won yesterday, 8 total teams left. Which of the 4 that won yesterday do you think will pull off the upset today?
I mean, so you look at UNC. They lost 2 of their last games entering the conference tournament. They're the 5 seed. They didn't look great against Boston College, but they're a team that has proven that they can win. They play Florida State today, and it's going to be a tough game. I think that UNC might be able to pull that one off, make it to the semifinals. I think that they're probably the underdog right now. I really don't see Notre Dame losing. I really don't see NC State losing either. So I really think that it's going to be UNC that really is able to be that upset team and make it to the semifinals.
We will talk more about the overall tournament later, but we had a battle of the Techs yesterday, and it was a good one. We start off late in the first quarter as Wenzel has it on the wing, finds Matilda Eck at the top of the key, and it is good. You know she's going to hit a lot of threes today.
Having her senior spotlight in the ACC tournament.
Just at the end of the first quarter, Wenzel on the left side throws the lob to Kale Peterson, up and good, just before the end of the first quarter. Next, we have Kara Dunn, receives the ball at the top of the key, drives in, moves off to the defender, and makes the tough bucket. Chastity Wright drives in on Rose Mishaw, up and good to cap off a 15-0 run, and that will be all she had, a 72-57 victory for Georgia Tech.
Coming into the contest, the Hokies were projected as the last team out in the NCAA tournament. But even with the loss to Georgia Tech, ESPN analyst Charlie Cream still has the Hokies projected as the last team in over Minnesota. If that holds true, Megan Duffy will be going dancing in her first season in Blacksburg. So now let's take it over to our very own Haden Tolbert to give us a recap on Duffy's first season with the Hokies.
After the fall of defeat, the Lady Hokies feared to just miss on a chance to make the women's NCAA tournament after losing to Georgia Tech Thursday afternoon. While that was disappointing for most fans, these women gave all their heart and grit to a head coach in Megan Duffy after suffering the saddening departure of legendary head coach Kenny Brooks. From heartbreaking losses to sweet, sweet victories, the Hokies achieved some memorable moments this season. We will start with the homage of the very first game of Coach Megan Duffy's career as Virginia Tech defeated UNC Wilmington 99-57 on November 4th, where 3 players, Karis Baker, Carly Wenzel, and Matilda Eck, dropped double figures in Castle as it created a spark in the Duffy era. Or how about the SEC ACC Challenge where Virginia Tech knocked off Georgia 70-61 on the road, only allowing the Bulldogs to score 8 points in the entire fourth quarter in December. And finally, a game where the Hokies took down the number 13th ranked Yellow Jackets in 2 overtimes that had players such as Lana White, Rose Mishaw, and Carly Wenzel all tallying 20 or more points on the road in Atlanta. Now, while Virginia Tech's season wasn't a success like the past few years, Megan Duffy has established a building block in recruiting and team chemistry that will give the fans here in Blacksburg excitement in the world of women's basketball for years to come. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Hayden. It was a really impressive year for Duffy and her crew. Even though they weren't able to pull away the win in the ACC tournament, they still had a really great year in Duffy's first year. Now, it's pretty early, and the offseason hasn't appeared yet, but it looks like a lot of this Hokies team won't be leaving next season. So what do you think they're going to need to do to kind of build this team for the 2025 season? Is it going to be some new recruits? Is it going to be some new transfers? What do you think?
You hit it right on the spot. I mean, Rose Mishaw and Matilda Eck are the only 2 Hokies that are leaving. Now, that means that there's no depth on the big man position. You only have Karis Baker. So they're definitely going to have to look for a dominant big man if at all possible.
Yep, you've got Kate Sears coming out of high school too, a top recruit. She's going to be great for the Hokies next year, but you talk about it. With Rose leaving, you're going to need a big. You're going to need someone who's going to be able to post up in the post, get you rebounds down low, body up against the other team's big men. So they're really going to need to look for a replacement for Rose. Hopefully they'll be able to find one in the transfer portal, but after Duffy's first year, I'm sure that there would be a lot of people who would love to come to Blacksburg.
Now, just because it's March doesn't mean we forgot about the rest of Tech athletics and their success they've been having. It's Diamond Season 2, as baseball and softball are getting into their seasons into a full swing. And the Hokies wrestlers look to make a noise in the ACC Tournament this weekend. Mr. Landon Weaver has it covered. Landon?
It's Friday morning, folks, which means it's time for an all-you-can-eat Hokie Sports Buffet. Will Virginia Tech baseball get off to a hot start in conference play? Can softball's pitching queen continue to terrorize hitters across the country against in-state rivals UVA? And can wrestling follow in the footsteps of men's track and field by bringing yet another ACC championship home to Blacksburg? I'll take you through all of that on this week's edition of the 2-Minute Drill. So without further ado, let's get it rolling. We'll start out on the diamond, where baseball is off to a winning start. Over the week, the baseball squad completed a quick sweep over Norfolk State, winning the series 2-0 with a combined score of 28-5. In the second leg, Jared Davis was able to touch the bag 4 times, including a 382-foot annihilation to the pitching lab in the 4th inning. Now, in the 7th inning, it was hammer time for David Lewis as his blast sent Norfolk State packing. Hokies moved to 10-3 on the season as they gear up to host the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in a 3-game series to kick off ACC play starting this afternoon. Now, let's take a walk across the track and over to Tech Softball Park, where the story remains the same. Nobody can hit against Emma Limley. Last weekend, the 18th ranked Hokies played multiple games down in Salem, Virginia, winning 4 of 5 and improving to 17-4 on the season. In those 5 games, the Queen of the Mound pitched 2 wins, only conceding 4 runs and 8 hits. Now this weekend, Limley and company will also begin ACC play with a top 25 home series against University of Virginia, 23rd ranked in the nation. The upcoming matchup against the Cavaliers will be a great opportunity for Virginia Tech softball to begin their chase for an ACC championship. But now we may have to call the mayor of Blacksburg, Leslie Hager-Smith, about a town name change, and in my opinion, we got to start calling it Tracksburg because of the success that the men's track team is having inside Rector Fieldhouse. This past weekend, the Hokies traveled to Louisville, where they competed in the ACC Indoor Track and Field Championships. Virginia Tech's men closed out the DMR and 800-meter Ws through photo finishes, but the man of the hour was Judson Lincoln IV. The junior captured not 1, but 2 ACC titles in the 200 and 400-meter dash. His monster day was enough for Tech to edge out UVA for the ACC title. The wrestling squad will look to follow suit as they travel to Cameron Indoor for the ACC championship. The Hokies go into the championships with 4 number 1 seeds in the 125, 141, 149, and 157 weight classes, certainly primed for a shot at the title. Well, that's 2 minutes, which means my time is up. Let's send it back to Miles and Pearce. Guys.
Thanks, Landon. Another beautiful edition of the 2-Minute Drill. It's going to be an eventful weekend on the field, the mats, and the hardwood. Now for our final segment, we're going to give some predictions. So to start us off, let's talk about Virginia Tech heads to South Carolina to face Clemson in men's basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last matchup of the season for Coach Mike Young and his guys. They travel down to South Carolina. They're taking on the number 11 team in the country. This is going to be a rough matchup. They're playing on the road. They haven't had the best luck in their recent games. They just got blown out by UNC. Their confidence might be a little low. I really don't think that they're going to be able to pull out this win. If they do, it'll be amazing for their resume, and it will most likely get them a first-round bye in the ACC tournament. But I really don't think it's too likely. But now we can also switch it over to the diamond. We've got some action for Virginia Tech baseball this weekend. They take on Georgia Tech. How do you think the Hokies are going to fare in that series?
It's going to be a great series, I'm going to be honest. I think that Georgia Tech is going to come in hot, but I think the weather's going to have a big impact. I think Hokies take it 2-1 because their pitching's been inconsistent game-to-game ratio. So I think just like the Buttonell series, Virginia Tech will win the first, lose the second, and then take Georgia Tech home and send it back to Atlanta, Georgia. So for the final thing, or one of the next things, we got Hokies softball. The Commonwealth Clash is here in Blacksburg this season. Who you got?
I can't believe it's here already. I mean, it kind of snuck up on us, but we got number 23, UVA, coming into Blacksburg to take on the Hokies, but I don't think it's going to be enough to kind of stop what Emma Lemley's been doing this year. She's been amazing from the mound. She's been just kind of propelling the Hokies to a winning season, to not only a winning, but a dominant season so far. I think that the Hokies will be able to take this. I think the UVA might be able to scrape one out, but I think I think that the Hokies will be able to take this series 2-1 and come up with a victory over the Hoos. But we can switch away from the Diamond. We can switch away from all of that. It's ACC tournament time. We got the men's, we got the women's. The women's finishes up on Sunday, I believe. Who do you think is going to take the victory in that one?
So for women's, I got Notre Dame. They have an easy path, in my opinion. They got to win 2 games. I mean, just 2 games. They got a great path, and I think they're going to take it all the way home. Now, for the men's side, I mean, Duke's been unstoppable. They've only lost 1 game to Clemson, but that was at Clemson. I think with a neutral site, Duke's got it all the way. Who do you have?
See, I'd love to disagree with you, but you just made some pretty good points right there. Notre Dame for the women, they've got Hannah Hidalgo, they've got Olivia Miles. There's probably the best backcourt in women's college basketball right now. They've been unstoppable. We saw them play here in Blacksburg about a month ago, and it was a close game, but those were really the 2 stars that shined. I expect them to do it on the big stage, and I expect them to come away with the hardware in the ACC tournament. And then for Duke, it's Cooper Flagg. He's been having an amazing freshman season. He will be the #1 overall pick. He is the best player in college basketball right now. It's hard to imagine him not walking away with the trophy from this tournament and just being able to give Duke another staple win in an already amazing program.
The next time we see each other, we will have crowned the kings and the queens of the hardwood and the mat. Until then, for our reporters, Robert Bateman, Haden Tolbert, and Landon Weaver. My guy, Miles Jordan, right next to me. I'm Pearce Mcknight, and we say so long from Blacksburg, Virginia. And we will see you in 2 weeks on 3304 Sports.